Have you ever found yourself constantly thinking about someone, even when you know it's been a while since you last interacted? You might wonder why your mind keeps circling back to them, especially when they seem to be occupying space in your thoughts for no apparent reason. Is it love, obsession, or something deeper at play? Carl Jung, a well-known psychologist, believed that unconscious thoughts and feelings often resurface in our minds for a reason. Today, we'll explore 14 possible reasons why you can't stop thinking about a person, with examples and insights rooted in psychological theory. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why certain individuals seem to have a permanent spot in your thoughts. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on any future videos about human behavior and psychology. Let's get started. Have you ever thought about someone and realized it's less about them and more about you? What we tend to forget is that sometimes when we can't stop thinking about someone, we're projecting our own emotional needs or desires onto them. Carl Jung's theory of projection explains that we often place qualities we desire or dislike within ourselves onto others. This isn't always a bad thing, but it means that our obsession with someone might be less about them and more about our own unfulfilled emotional needs. For instance, I once had a friend named Emma who found herself constantly thinking about a coworker who seemed calm and collected. After reflecting on it, she realized that she envied his ability to stay composed under pressure, something she struggled with. Her thoughts were more about wishing she could embody those qualities, rather than about him as an individual. The reason someone might occupy your mind constantly is because they're tied to unresolved wounds. These wounds, often rooted in past experiences or emotional trauma, haven't healed yet. When we experience emotional pain, our brain revisits it again and again in an attempt to process and understand what happened. This could happen even if you haven't consciously thought about the incident in a while. I had a friend, David, who couldn't stop thinking about an ex-girlfriend for months. At first, he thought it was just about missing her, but eventually he realized that their breakup had left him with a deep emotional scar. He had unresolved feelings of rejection and abandonment that made him continue to think about her, even though he tried to move on. When someone is associated with unresolved emotional wounds, their memory lingers until you heal those wounds. Have you noticed that you're consistently drawn to the same type of people? It might feel like there's a specific pattern or archetype you're always attracted to. Psychologist Carl Jung identified these as archetypes, universal symbols, or patterns that shape human experience. You might find yourself repeatedly thinking about someone who fits a certain archetype because they represent something deeper that your psyche is trying to understand or embody. For instance, I know someone who constantly seems to attract bad boys. No matter how many times they tell themselves they want a stable, reliable partner, they always seem to fall for people who are emotionally unavailable. This behavior is driven by unconscious patterns linked to their past experiences and desires, and the person they're thinking about fits into that recurring role in their life. Sometimes the person you can't stop thinking about is a reflection of your shadow self. The shadow self, a concept introduced by Carl Jung, is the part of your personality that's hidden from your conscious awareness. It contains qualities, traits, and desires that you might suppress or reject in yourself. When you think about someone, they might represent a part of yourself that you have yet to confront or accept. A friend of mine, Laura, once struggled with feelings of insecurity and self-doubt. She found herself constantly thinking about a colleague who exuded confidence and charisma. Over time, Laura realized that this colleague represented the confidence she lacked in herself. Her obsession with him wasn't about him at all, but about her own unresolved feelings toward her shadow self. Eventually, there comes a point when you have to let go of someone in order to reclaim your mind and emotional energy. This might be the hardest part, but letting go doesn't always mean cutting them out of your life completely. It means emotionally releasing the grip that person has on your mind. For example, a friend of mine named Amy was constantly thinking about an old partner who wasn't good for her, but the more she obsessed over the relationship, the more she couldn't move forward. It wasn't until she allowed herself to grieve and let go of the idea that they could be together that she found peace and the ability to move on. Letting go is about taking control of your thoughts and emotions so they no longer hold you back. The final truth is that it was never about them in the first place. All of these reasons, projection, unresolved wounds, patterns, archetypes, the shadow self, point to something deeper within you. It's not about the other person, it's about what they represent to you and the parts of yourself that you're still trying to understand. When you realize that, you free yourself from being stuck in that mental loop. You can start to focus on yourself, your growth, and your healing. By gaining clarity about your thoughts and emotions, you'll begin to reclaim control over your mind and your life. 14 unmistakable signs they may be secretly harboring negative feelings toward you. Sign number 1, intriguing synchronicity. Have you ever noticed how right when you start thinking about someone, you start seeing them in places you wouldn't expect? Carl Jung described this as synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence that transcends mere chance. This synchronicity can feel like an invisible force drawing you closer to that person, making you think about them even more. Think about this. I once had a friend who thought about an old friend for weeks, and suddenly they ran into them at the most random place, a cafe they'd never been to before. It was as if the universe was aligning with their thoughts, increasing their obsession. Sign number 2, they can't get out of your mind. This one might seem obvious, but the simple fact that someone keeps popping into your thoughts is already a big sign. When your mind is constantly circling back to someone, even without reason, it can be a sign that there's an unconscious pull that you can't quite shake off. Sign number 3, you replay conversations. Do you often replay your past conversations with this person? Psychologists say this is your mind trying to make sense of unresolved emotions or trying to learn from past interactions. Sign number 4, unfinished business. If you have unfinished business with someone, your thoughts will likely return to them until it's resolved. Whether it's an unresolved argument or an unspoken truth, that person may stay in your mind until you confront those unresolved issues. Sign number 5, obsessive curiosity. When you feel compelled to know every little detail about someone's life, especially after they've left, it's often a sign of emotional attachment or a desire for closure. This obsession with knowing what they're up to can fuel your thoughts. Sign number 6, emotional impact. If thinking about someone makes you feel something intense, like anger, sadness, or even happiness, your emotions are trying to tell you something important. The emotional impact is an indicator that something unresolved is pulling you back toward them. Sign number 7, you compare new people to them. If you can't stop comparing every new person in your life to this person, it's a sign that they left a lasting imprint on your psyche. This happens when someone has affected your worldview or emotional life to such an extent that everyone else feels second to them. Sign number 8, dreaming about them. When you dream about someone repeatedly, it's often a sign that they are linked to unresolved psychological issues. Dreams are a gateway to your unconscious mind, and they're bringing this person back to the forefront for a reason. Sign number 9, sudden emotional outbursts. If thinking about this person leads to sudden emotional reactions like anger, frustration, or even joy, your subconscious mind is trying to process an emotional wound related to them. Sign number 10, their absence feels heavy. If their absence feels like a void, your brain might be trying to fill in that gap, which keeps them on your mind. Sign number 11, you keep trying to make sense of their actions, constantly analyzing this person's behavior. This is your brain's way of trying to understand the puzzle pieces of your relationship with them. Sign number 12, you hold on to old memories. If you find yourself clinging to the good memories, it's often because you have unfinished emotional business with that person. Sign number 13, you feel a stronger emotional connection than before. Even if this person is far away, you might feel like they have an increased emotional hold over you as time goes on. Sign number 14, they trigger powerful emotional responses. Every time you think about them, you feel a rush of emotion, whether positive or negative, indicating they still impact you in a profound way. So if you find yourself unable to stop thinking about someone, it might be time to reflect on what they truly represent in your life. The answer is rarely as simple as love or obsession. It often points to deeper psychological processes that are trying to guide you towards self-discovery. Take the time to understand what you're truly searching for, and soon you'll find that the thoughts begin to fade, replaced with newfound clarity and peace. If you found this video insightful, please subscribe and share it with anyone who might benefit from this perspective. Thanks for watching and take care.